The 11th of January 2023, the Gemini South Observatory on Mauna Kea recorded an unusual signal, a streak of light traveling at speeds exceeding 100,000 miles per hour and perfectly stable. In astrophysics, no comet or asteroid is so stable. Every natural object wobbles, is slightly pulled by gravity, or changes its reflections as it rotates on its axis, but 3I Atlas is different. Its light is uniform and its spectrum is almost perfectly flat. Gemini's analysis software gave an error. The sensor claimed the data had been smoothed by an internal algorithm. But when the technical team checked, they all confirmed that no processing had been applied. In other words, the object created the perfection the machine suspected was artificial. NASA received a copy of the signal within 2 hours. At the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the data was decoded according to the DSN, Deep Space Network System Standard. The results stunned everyone. 3I Atlas's echoes had a period of exactly 0.0032 seconds and repeated for more than 6 minutes without phase shift. No natural object in the solar system has ever shown such consistency. If it wasn't an instrument error, then there were only 2 possibilities: an artificial object or a physical mechanism unknown to humans. In the celestial mechanics, every object that forms from a star's dusty disk moves in the same direction. This is a result of the initial angular momentum when the solar system was born. But the orbit of 3I Atlas is completely retrograde. Measurements from the Pan-STARRS telescope in Hawaii and the Deep Space Network radar network confirm the object is moving in the opposite direction of the sun's rotation at a speed of more than 160,000 kilometers per hour. This requires hundreds of times more energy to start than any comet ever recorded. In physics, such a retrograde orbit can only happen in 2 ways. Either the object is propelled by a huge burst of energy, or it actively chooses its direction of travel. When NASA entered the parameters into the N-body gravity model, every simulation failed. No natural mechanism could keep an object stable when it was going against the inertial rotation of the entire planetary system. The energy constants were broken, the orbit was undisturbed, and its spectral signature was perfect. An engineer at JPL wrote in an internal report, "If this is a comet, it is a comet that defies the laws of physics." During a closed-door NASA-ESA video conference, a physicist asked a question that would become the focus of the debate. Could we be seeing a steered orbit, rather than an orbit formed? That question completely changed the way they viewed 3I Atlas. No one called it a comet anymore. In internal documents, it was provisionally designated an object of controlled dynamics. In the universe, light is the language of matter. Every atom, every molecule, when interacting with radiation, leaves behind its own spectral fingerprint, a pattern of energy that scientists can read like the DNA of the universe. But with 3I Atlas, all those rules seem to be broken. When the James Webb Space Telescope recorded its energy spectrum, the result did not match any known physical pattern. There was no trace of water, no hydrogen vapor, no emission lines from organic carbon. Instead, there was just a band of pure blue light, increasing toward a wavelength of 520 nanometers, then disappearing completely, leaving no infrared region. In optical physics, reflected light is always accompanied by absorption. A natural object cannot emit light without losing energy, but 3I Atlas emitted a steady light, which did not decrease in amplitude over time. It did not shine because it was illuminated, but because it was self-illuminating. Scientists call this phenomenon stable active emission, a state that is virtually impossible in the natural environment. To maintain this, the object needed an internal energy source, a photon regulator, like a photoreactor. If this were true, 3I Atlas was not just a floating object, but a source of energy in space. At the NASA Goddard Laboratory, a young spectrologist said something that silenced the group. This light is not reflected. It is transmitted as if it were sending a signal. The comment quickly spread throughout the research groups. Some called it a plasma signal. Some said it was a self-resonance phenomenon. But they all agree on one thing. Nothing in nature glows in a rhythm that has a precise second-by-second cycle. If you're watching this video, leave a comment below. What do you think could cause an object to glow consistently in space? An unknown physical mechanism, or an ancient form of interstellar communication? Measurements from the Deep Space Network and the Gemini Observatory show that 3I Atlas has a mass of approximately 33 billion tons, but a volume of nearly 5.6 cubic kilometers. That density is so low that it cannot exist according to any natural physical model, almost completely hollow, yet stable at velocities exceeding 160,000 kilometers per hour. In the intense radiation environment near the Sun, any hollow comet disintegrates. 3I Atlas does not. It maintains its shape, does not rotate, and is not deformed by the pressure of the solar wind. NASA's three-dimensional dynamic simulations show that such stability can only be maintained if there is an internal pressure control system, a mechanism to counteract inertia. In physics terms, this is equivalent to the object defining its own gravity. If so, then 3I Atlas is no longer a mass of matter, but a system of energy framed in a physical form. A design that allows the object to defy gravity, to balance its orbit, and to move like a sentient being. An ESA researcher said in an emergency meeting, "If this is nature, then nature is acting as technology." And if you're still listening, let the soft glow of the screen be a signal between two people observing the universe. A gentle tap to subscribe and like the video, so we can meet again in the next chapters, where 3I Atlas begins to challenge the ultimate limits of science. Once NASA confirmed the first data, news of 3I Atlas spread almost immediately. From the Institute of Astrophysics in Paris to the Harvard Solar System Center, every observatory pointed its telescope at the same coordinates in the sky. Within hours, a flood of scientific news stories appeared. Some researchers called it the successor to Oumuamua. Others described it as the greatest statistical anomaly in the history of orbital observations. But as subsequent data were released, the word anomaly gradually disappeared from reports. ESA radar confirmed that 3I Atlas's reflection intensity was rising and falling on a 33-minute cycle, like the object was rotating on its axis. However, this axis of rotation is not fixed to the Sun's orbit, but points to a fixed point in deep space where there are no planets, no stars, only the darkness of the cosmic background radiation. That silenced the scientific community, because if 3I Atlas really rotates in that fixed direction, It is maintaining its own coordinate system, separated from the reference system of the entire solar system. No natural object has ever exhibited this behavior. At the international conference in Geneva, Michio Kaku made a brief speech. "We are not just observing a physical phenomenon, but possibly a form of intelligent behavior." After that statement, the atmosphere in the conference room changed completely. Everyone understood that the boundary between physics and technology has become more blurred than ever. From that moment on, 3I Atlas was no longer a story of astronomy, but a test of the limits of human cognition. Shortly after 3I Atlas was identified, NASA released its first 3 images and then went silent. No further updates. No open spectral data, and no press releases. Internally, a chain email was sent to international observatories requesting a hold on the release of images related to 3I Atlas until the data is fully verified. The full phrase became a veil for a long silence. Independent researchers noticed something strange. Starting on the 17th of February 2023, the entire 8.4 GHz frequency of the DSN, normally used for distant object tracking, went offline for exactly 33 minutes, coinciding with the 3I Atlas luminescence cycle. A signal gap in space, and no one explained why. Amateur observers in Chile and South Africa were still recording regularly. They saw 3I Atlas's light brighten and fade, as if a brief burst of radio energy had passed through. But when they posted it online, the videos were quickly taken down. Some say it was because of copyright, but the community knew it was a sophisticated information control. History had seen similar things with Oumuamua. In scientific forums, the question kept popping up: why is NASA silent in the face of the biggest discovery of the century? No one answered, but data from ESA and the Japanese Space Agency, JAXA, showed 3I Atlas was still emitting steady radiation in the infrared despite being out of direct observation range. It was still active. Nature Astronomy published a short article. It is possible that 3I Atlas entered the low radiation zone behind the Sunday. During that time, all signals were distorted. But radio analysts disagree, because when the signals from all other objects were distorted, 3I Atlas became clearer. An engineer at the Goddard Center left a strange note in an internal report. The signal did not disappear, it was just filtered out of the public channel. That statement opened up suspicions that NASA and ESA were deliberately limiting the public data spectrum, keeping only the part that was allowed to be displayed, not enough to reconstruct the object's energy structure. That silence is no longer a scientific strategy. It is the instinctive reaction of a civilization when it realizes that it may be being observed. From there, the term 3I blackout was born in the astronomical world, denoting the period of time when all data about an object is blocked. Not a technical error, not a spectral limitation. It is a decision. After the data blackout, when NASA stopped releasing images, an independent team of observers in Argentina recorded what they called a light train. In the 47-second frame, 3I Atlas appears in the center, and behind it are 3 small bright points moving in parallel, keeping a regular steady distance like a synchronous satellite formation. Initially, scientists thought this was noise from the CCD sensor, but after cross-checking with images from Gemini South, all 4 objects were confirmed to be real. The 3 smaller light sources move on the same orbital period, and every time 3I Atlas changes its brightness, the three objects change accordingly by exactly 0.6 seconds. The timing is so perfect that many experts call this control synchronization, like a light communication network in space, where signals emitted from the center are reflected by small satellites to maintain dynamic stability. In an internal ESA report, a term was mentioned for the first time: multi-element self-interactive navigation system. In this theory, 3I Atlas does not operate alone. It could be the mothership, and the three smaller objects are auxiliary satellites programmed to maintain a stable structure and return data. Michio Kaku calls this the swarm hypothesis. He said in an interview, "If this is technology, it is demonstrating sophistication far beyond that of any civilization we know of, because keeping the signal delay under a second in deep space is impossible with current technology." JAXA data confirms this phenomenon persists for at least 5 days. Then, as 3I Atlas approached Mars' orbit, the three companions suddenly disappeared from view. They didn't explode, they didn't veer off course, they just melted into the darkness, as if being absorbed back into the main body. A team at Kyoto University simulated this process using a reverse energy absorption mechanism, a type of reaction in which the central body recaptures the energy emitted by the satellites, like a self-sustaining charging system. This would explain why 3I Atlas's brightness doubled after the three satellites disappeared. If true, 3I Atlas is not just an interstellar object, but a multi-element system capable of restructuring, a machine that can change its shape to adapt to its cosmic environment. And if that hypothesis is correct, then this is no longer an astronomical observation, but the first time humanity has seen a mechanical structure in action in interstellar space. As 3I Atlas neared Mars, planetary observatories simultaneously recorded unusual fluctuations in the planet's magnetic field. Not a small disturbance, but a global distortion. NASA's MAVEN spacecraft, which is conducting a Mars atmosphere survey mission, reported that on the 22nd of March 2023, the strength of the local magnetic field at longitude 112 degrees suddenly increased by nearly 18%, then fell back to normal within 47 minutes. This coincided exactly with the time 3I Atlas passed through that region. What's unusual is that Mars has no global magnetic field, only magnetic remnants left behind under the crust. There is no natural mechanism for such a dramatic increase in magnetic energy unless an external source interacts with the atmosphere. Mars Express sensors also recorded a spike in ionized CO2 and OMIs in the upper atmosphere, at concentrations 3 times higher than average. This means a burst of energy hit the Martian atmosphere, breaking gas molecules in a pattern of artificial ionization. No one can say for sure that 3I Atlas was the cause, but the timing of this event and its orbit matches minute by minute. Infrared images from the TGO, Trace Gas Orbiter satellite, show a faint plasma trail connecting the object to the upper Martian atmosphere, stretching about 1,200 kilometers, like a temporary energy tether, transferring charge between the two atmospheric systems. In an internal meeting at NASA Ames, a plasma expert made a frightening observation. If this current is real, it could be that 3I Atlas is collecting electromagnetic data from the Martian atmosphere. like an ancient probe taking measurements of the planet. ESA responded more cautiously, suggesting that this could be a plasma ion sheath interaction, a region of electrical charge between an object and its surroundings. But even that hypothesis does not explain why the direction of the plasma is not affected by the solar wind, but rather stays in a direction perpendicular to the orbital plane. In simulations by the University of Zurich, if this plasma does exist, it acts like a natural data link, with ionized particles acting as a digital signal between the two systems. No radio waves, no frequencies. It was just cosmic electricity carrying information. Since that event, the Martian atmosphere has changed slightly in composition. The CO2 content has increased by 0.04%, and the presence of atomic CO in the mesosphere is 4 times higher than normal. No one dares to conclude, but scientists all know it is the trace of an unnatural energy interaction. And from that moment, every observation of 3I Atlas has shifted from the question, "What is it?" to the question, "What is it doing?" On the 30th of March 2023, observatories from NASA, ESA, and JAXA simultaneously reported an unprecedented phenomenon. The entire 3I Atlas reflection signal disappeared at once, not fading away in accordance with the law of light decay, but disappearing completely in less than 2 minutes. Every band of the spectrum, infrared, ultraviolet, and radio, fell into a flat line, a perfectly flat line on the energy curve. This phenomenon occurred just as the object passed behind the Sun on the ecliptic plane, a region astronomers call the spectral blind zone. Normally, any comet or celestial body passing through this area would be temporarily obscured by solar radiation. But just a few days later, when it emerged from the bright zone, telescopes could pick up the signal again. Not this time. 32 days later, all systems had yet to record any reflections. ESA ground-based radar stations tried 2.3 gigahertzes to look for a return signal. Nothing. The James Webb Telescope scanned the infrared down to 25 microns. Only thermal noise. Even the SOHO system, which monitors dust particles near the Sun, had detected no trace of plasma. Scientists began to wonder, had 3I Atlas been destroyed, or had it deliberately turned off all forms of energy reflection? An internal ESA paper noted, "This is the first time in recorded history that an interstellar object has disappeared without leaving a thermal footprint." In the JPL control room, a radar engineer described the phenomenon in dry, chilling terms. It no longer reflects photons. It's as if it has been stripped out of optical space. Some theoretical physicists theorize, maybe 3I Atlas has gone into spectral stealth mode by adjusting its surface grain structure to absorb all incoming light, like a cosmic metamaterial, a man-made material that can bend electromagnetic waves around it. If that's true, then 3I Atlas is not only moving actively, but also controlling its own presence in space. During that time, NASA and ESA have not released any new images. Scientific American asks, is it true that we can't see 3I Atlas, or are we not allowed to see it? A former NASA data analyst revealed that some radar data about the object has been switched to a military-level encryption, only accessible at the interagency level between NASA and the U.S. Department of Defense. ESA also confirmed the same situation, but under the pretext of solar signal coordination security. In independent scientific forums, a new concept was born: spectral null zone. Not where the light does not come, but where the light is actively removed. When the last data from March was reprocessed, a small detail emerged. In the 0.8 seconds before the signal was lost, 3I Atlas's radio band increased tenfold, then turned off completely, like a click of a button. Not a physical problem, not background noise, but action. From then on, scientists began to call this period zero moment, zero event, a boundary between observation and legend, where humans see the truth for the last time, before its light disappears completely behind the Sunday. After 3I Atlas disappeared behind the sun, a silence fell over the entire astronomy community. No further reports were published, no new images were released, and no agency claimed to have observed the object again. 3 months later, NASA held a closed-door meeting in Pasadena. The 312-page summary titled Post-Solar Observation Gap 3I Atlas Case recorded that all tracking systems were functioning normally, no instrument failures, no technical problems. The object had indeed disappeared from all measurements. The only remaining data were fragments, radar signals, discrete light spectra, and a few strings of numbers in the MAVEN background noise. But even those fragments, when fed into dynamical models, produced results that defied all known laws. A simulation by ESA shows that if its mass, density, and velocity were kept constant, 3I Atlas should have disintegrated within 48 hours of leaving Mars orbit. But in 33 days of observation, it not only survived, but also became more stable over time. That has physicists rethinking the basic concept: does interstellar matter really obey the same set of physical laws as the solar system? Or is this the first evidence for an extended physical model, where energy and matter can switch roles in extreme cosmic environments? Professor Avi Loeb calls this the paradox of stability. He writes, "If 3I Atlas is natural, it is evidence that nature is smarter than we thought. If it is artificial, then we may have just seen a form of technology that the universe has been hiding for millions of years." Well, since that event, observatories have begun to deploy the Interstellar Object Search System, IOSS. New telescopes are designed to detect faint signals, shorter than a millisecond, signals that were previously dismissed as noise. Because after 3I Atlas, everyone understands that. The strangest thing is not what we see, but the gaps in the data. The universe doesn't lie, it just keeps quiet at the right time. And that silence sometimes is louder than a radio signal from distant stars. As soon as 3I Atlas disappeared from the optical view, every image became meaningless. The only thing left were the data rows, cold numbers, each unit carrying the echo of an anomaly. In the ESA radar data, a series of echoes hidden in the background noise appeared to repeat every 33 minutes and 0.2 seconds. The same number as before the object fell into the spectral blackout. The rhythm was as regular as a pulse, not strong, not weak, just existing, as if it were keeping its own rhythm in absolute silence. An engineer at the Deep Space Network Control Center wrote in the report, "We lost the image, but the data still breathes." That sentence was the beginning of the second wave of analysis, the wave of doubt. No one thought this was a random piece of debris floating in space. No object can maintain perfect rhythm after it has disappeared from view. And from that moment on, the concept of natural debris began to falter. In the early stages after 3I Atlas disappeared, the most popular hypothesis among scientists was that the object could be ancient debris drifting between stars. At the Harvard-Smithsonian Institute for Astrophysics, Professor Edward Morvan's team ran more than 2,000 supercomputer simulations to test that possibility. They hypothesized that 3I Atlas once belonged to a planet or asteroid destroyed in a supernova explosion millions of light years ago. If the explosion was powerful enough, the debris could have been ejected at speeds exceeding 150,000 kilometers per hour, enough to leave the gravitational field of its parent star and drift through other star systems. At first glance, this hypothesis seems plausible. It helps explain the object's high speed and direction of travel. But when the ESA and NASA radar data were fed into the orbital model, a paradox emerged. The fragment could not have been stable over such a long journey of millions of light years. It would have spun, broken up, or been deflected by collisions with interstellar dust. 3I Atlas, however, maintained its shape and showed no signs of material loss. Its reflectivity was near perfect, like it was encased in a uniform material. No cracks, no variation in the reflectivity over time. Natural objects, whether crystalline or icy, could never reflect so uniformly. A member of the Harvard team wrote in an internal memo, "If this is a fragment, it is a self-sustaining fragment." The phrase was highly controversial because it implied that the object had some internal control mechanism, a capability that passive matter could not have. Despite strong opposition, their report became the basis for a series of subsequent analyses when statistical models showed that the probability of 3I Atlas being a natural fragment was less than 2%. In science, 2% is not a small number. But in this context, it was enough to make people admit the ancient fragment hypothesis may be correct in origin, but wrong in nature. As the ancient debris hypothesis began to lose steam, scientists began to look at 3I Atlas in a completely different light. No longer seeing it as a drifting object, they began to see signs of an active system in the data. The Kyoto University team was the first to publish this result. In reprocessing the light data, they discovered an emission cycle that was absurdly stable, 33 minutes and 2 seconds, repeating over 6 weeks. The phase shift was close to zero, a precision that can only be achieved with quantum clocks or controlled transmitters. Simulations showed that the light and radio signals of 3I Atlas were not separated, but instead joined together in a resonance. If the spectrum were split, one would see that the optical waveforms overlapped exactly with the electromagnetic waveforms, a match never seen before in nature. This led the Kyoto team to a new concept: internally coordinated energy structure. An object whose individual glowing elements simultaneously respond to signals from the center, forming a self-balancing network. If this is true, 3I Atlas is no longer a solid piece of matter, but a living energy body of frequency. Physicists call this resonant synchronization, a phenomenon in which many different points operate in phase even though they are thousands of kilometers apart, like an orchestra without a conductor, yet still playing the same piece on the same beat. From then on, the concept of organized system officially appeared in the astronomical world. No one talked about comets or celestial bodies anymore. Everyone understood. There is an intelligent energy-regulating structure operating in this space. If you're still listening, let your signal join in. A tap of the subscribe button, like sending a little vibration, letting 3I Atlas, or whatever is listening in the darkness, know that we're still there, still trying to understand its language. When the Kyoto team announced the light cycle of 3I Atlas, ESA and NASA immediately reopened their entire radar archives from early February. They weren't looking for light, they were looking for repetition. In the radio spectrum, the object didn't emit like a star. It responded as if it were talking with waves. The signal strength varied from one observation point to another, as if there were multiple voices coming from the same source at the same time. When the scientists pieced together the signal phases into a 3D map, a pattern emerged. 4 distinct bright spots, vibrating at the same frequency, but 0.6 seconds apart, enough to form a closed network of resonances. This led to the first hypothesis. 3I Atlas might be a system of energy points connected by waves. Not a solid object, but an electromagnetic lattice, where energy moves in waves rather than thrusts. NASA calls this a self-stabilizing lattice. According to this model, the motion of the object comes not from engines or collisions, but from the transfer of vibrations between points of light, like the way electrons slide across an electric field. If true, 3I Atlas is not actually flying through space, but sliding across the fabric of space itself, a movement never before seen. And then a question arose in the ESA meeting room. If this is an energy lattice, then who or what is keeping it in rhythm? No one could answer. Some suggested that it was the self-organization of plasma, but others were silent. Because if there is a rhythm, there must be a driving force. Could 3I Atlas be a self-resonating machine that moves? Or are we witnessing a physical principle that has never been described by humans? What if one day, energy particles could create order without matter? In that moment, science is not just about finding truth, but also about accepting that the universe can function as a thinking mind. After the first models of 3I Atlas were published, the scientific community began to split. One side believed it was an extremely rare natural phenomenon. The other believed they were witnessing a deliberate organizing mechanism. Research centers in Europe, the US, and Japan simultaneously reanalyzed the data. Some plasma physics models suggested that the synchronization in light frequency could be a natural response of matter to the influence of the sun's magnetic field, but this hypothesis was quickly disproved because the amplitude of 3I Atlas's oscillations was too stable, far beyond the plasma's ability to self-regulate. More cautious thinkers suggested that it was a form of self-organizing structure, like the way water crystals form patterns under sound waves. Nature, though chaotic, has the ability to create order. Perhaps 3I Atlas is a testament to that. But there are also groups who argue that, if this structure is truly capable of maintaining stable energy, responding periodically and adjusting the direction of its light, it is not just a natural reaction, but a system capable of making decisions. An ESA physicist wrote in an internal report, 3I Atlas does not just exist, it chooses to exist. From that moment, researchers were forced to ask a fundamental question. Is the universe just a place where phenomena occur, or is it an entity capable of creating behavior? And 3I Atlas, whether fragment or organized structure, has forced humanity to see the universe for the first time as a thinking system. As 3I Atlas approached Mars, measurements began to reveal something puzzling. The object was not just reacting to its environment, but also actively adjusting its behavior. Its brightness varied with the direction of the solar wind, but instead of being pushed off course like a typical comet, 3I Atlas maintained a stable orbit. This suggests that it was balancing its emission energy as if it understood the forces at work around it. Data from MAVEN and Mars Express also confirmed a change in the frequency of its emission during the period of the strongest solar wind. The frequency was not random, it was changing in time with the plasma's radiation cycle, a calculated response, not a spontaneous physical phenomenon. Some scientists call this adaptive emission. Put simply, it is the ability to adjust energy to survive, like how organisms change their breathing patterns in an oxygen-depleted environment. This hypothesis raises the question, is 3I Atlas just an object, or is it a system learning to interact with space? There is no clear answer. But in the final bursts before the signal was lost, 3I Atlas remained in perfect orbit, as if every adjustment was part of a plan, a silent cosmic program that humans are only just beginning to understand. When the data were compiled, scientists realized that 3I Atlas was not moving randomly. The changes in brightness, frequency, and direction of reflection followed an orderly, repeating pattern. Each of its flare cycles coincided with peak solar radiation, and between those cycles, the object reduced its emission energy, as if collecting, processing, and then feeding back environmental data. ESA models simulated this movement and found that, if each flare was viewed as a packet of energy data, 3I Atlas was performing a periodic scan, a survey pattern similar to the planetary scanning system of a probe. No one dared to say it was working, but the behavior was too regular to be considered random. A researcher at NASA JPL commented, "If this is a natural object, it behaves exactly as if it were a device on a mission." The question arises, what mission is that? There is no data to answer. But over the last 74 recorded cycles, 3I Atlas has always pointed its peak energy toward the same spatial coordinates, the intersection of the orbits of Earth and Mars. It could be a coincidence, but it could also be a pre-selected observation point. Some quantum physicists have suggested that the object may be measuring the structure of the interplanetary magnetic field in the same way humans scan geomagnetic maps of Earth. If so, 3I Atlas may not be a probe, but an ancient space surveyor, still operating according to a program set millions of years ago. Could an ancient system continue to operate because it was built to never stop? No one has any proof, only the data sequences, repeating over and over again, regular, steadfast, like the breathing of a machine, continuing to carry out its mission in silence. After the first results, the scientific community began to split into two directions. One side believed that 3I Atlas was just a rare natural phenomenon. The other side believed that the data went beyond the scope of conventional physical models. Many research institutes held closed discussions. It was no longer a debate about formulas, but about understanding the world. Some scientists admitted that what they were observing no longer fit the concept of comet or interstellar object. 3I Atlas showed the behavior, reactions, and stability of a purposeful system. Although no one dared to publish the conclusions, all understood that the story had gone beyond the scope of conventional science. 3I Atlas not only shook the data, it shook the faith of those who once thought that the universe was just a series of physical reactions. As 3I Atlas moved closer to the sun, observatories began to record a gradual decline in the signal. From Hubble to James Webb to ExoMars, every channel hit the noise threshold. Instead of disappearing abruptly, its light faded layer by layer, as if some control mechanism was slowly drawing in energy. Scientists described it as structured fading, a slow, precise process, unlike any other natural event on record. The last signal was recorded at 1942 UTC, before the entire spectrum fell below detection threshold. At that moment, multiple sensors reported the same pattern of oscillations, a small, steady pulse, then complete silence. Not a failure, but a final, encoded greeting in light. NASA analysts call this active de-energization, implying that 3I Atlas did not lose signal, but chose to leave the field of view. ESA uses a different expression. The object exited the field of view, not because of instrument limitations, but because of human limitations. From there, the models diverge. One suggests that 3I Atlas was completely obscured by sunlight and simply needs to wait a few weeks to observe it again when it passes through an opposite orbit. But the other suggests that the object turned off its active power to avoid detection as a form of strategic hiding in the corona. Both hypotheses are plausible, and that is what has scientists more confused than ever. No explosion, no signs of disintegration. There was only a flat line of data and a strange feeling, as if 3I Atlas had done its job and retreated into the darkness of the universe. From that moment on, everything was silent. A silence not of the end, but of something being held, waiting for someone to understand it. After 3I Atlas disappeared from view, the entire telescope system went into standby mode. No signal, no light, just a stream of data that stopped at the same moment, like an absolute cut in the history of human observation. No official statements were made by the space agencies, only short, neutral summaries, talking about instrument limitations and solar interference. But internally, everyone understood that it was no longer a limitation of technology, but a limitation of human knowledge. Some experts believed that 3I Atlas would soon reappear, according to its expected orbital period, but many others felt the opposite, that the object had not left. It had just moved into a state we could not yet recognize. At the year-end conferences, the phrase "anonymous orderly object" became the most frequently mentioned topic. No one called it a comet anymore. No one dared to call it a device. People just said it. Paper-planned, with a mixture of respect and confusion. The universe did not answer. It just kept silent. A silence that was not empty, but heavy, as if waiting for humans to understand something that no one was ready for. And then, over time, the reports gradually closed. But in the raw data, in the frequency sequences left behind amid the noise, some people still believed they heard something, a faint, repeating oscillation, like a distant echo from a system that had never been turned off. Maybe 3I Atlas had not left. Maybe it had just kept silent to see what humans would do next. And if so, then this silence is not the end, but the first door opened to an era in which the universe is no longer a place of observation, but a place of dialogue. As 3I Atlas moved away from the corona, ground-based telescopes began to notice something unusual. The light reflected from the object was no longer yellow-white as before, but gradually turned pale green, a rare color range in the spectrum of common comets. The Gemini South Observatory in Chile was the first to detect this change. At first, the technical team suspected a calibration error, because the green light often appears when the lens is dispersive or misaligned. But when compared with data from the Subaru telescope in Hawaii, the results were a perfect match. 2 observation points nearly halfway around the world recorded the same green signal at the same frequency. The coincidence eliminated any possibility of technical error. In the analyzed spectral range, the strongest energy line is around 500 and 2530 nanometers, a region where only C2 diatomic carbon molecules are typically emitted. However, in the spectral pattern of 3I Atlas, there is no trace of carbon, methane, or any organic compounds, an object that emits carbon light but does not contain carbon. This contradiction has led the optical physics community to re-examine all data. One hypothesis is that the blue light does not come from a chemical reaction, but from electromagnetic interactions between the plasma layers surrounding the object. If true, this would mean that 3I Atlas generates its own light through a mechanism called energy oscillations, a form of active emission independent of matter. In Geneva, the team at the European Institute of Spectroscopy called it an active radiative field, a controlled energy emission field in which electrons trapped in a stable electromagnetic field emit light at a fixed wavelength without the need for physical reactions. The question began to arise: was this green light random, or a form of intentional signal, like a wave sent out in the visible spectrum? No one had an answer, but for many in the astronomy community, it was the first evidence that 3I Atlas was controlling its own energy. Blue light is not uncommon in the universe. Many comets that approach the sun often emit a pale green glow due to carbon molecules being excited by ultraviolet radiation. But 3I Atlas's light is different. It is stable, does not fluctuate, and does not decrease with radiation intensity. In natural comets, the intensity of light usually fluctuates because the plasma is constantly being swept away by the solar wind. But with 3I Atlas, the spectrum stays the same for days, and the energy band does not shift at all despite changes in the sun's activity. That is the first point that makes physicists rule out the possibility of this being a natural emission. Measurements of the light's polarization also show a clear difference. In natural light, the polarization direction is always random, depending on the scattering between dust particles. In 3I Atlas, the polarization angle is almost fixed at 62 degrees, a number so precise that it can only be produced if the source is controlled by a structured electromagnetic field. In other words, the light of 3I Atlas is not a reflection, but a signal, a form of emission maintained by a power control system, rather than the result of a spontaneous physical reaction. Researchers at the Paris Institute of Applied Physics simulated the spectrum and found that this light could be reproduced. If an object created a stable plasma at -180 degrees Celsius, with an electron density maintained at 10 to the power of 7 per cubic centimeter. This is far beyond what is possible in the natural environment. From there, the artificial emission hypothesis was put forward. No one is saying that 3I Atlas is a device, but most agree that its light is intentionally maintained. Spectroscopist Yuna Sato once wrote in a brief report, "If light is a language, then 3I Atlas is speaking a language we have not yet learned." From that statement, a new line of research was born, viewing the spectrum of 3I Atlas as a form of energy coding, where each frequency represents not only matter, but also information about the object's purpose. When the spectral data were compiled, the researchers noticed something strange. 3I Atlas's blue light was not continuous, but oscillated in regular cycles, each pulse lasting 33 minutes, matching the previously detected energy cycle. The coincidence was too perfect to be a coincidence. Those who studied the data began to wonder, if the light and energy frequencies were in sync, could 3I Atlas be transmitting information through light? The concept of spectral coding, the spectral encoding hypothesis, was born from this. According to this hypothesis, each wavelength, each small change in intensity or phase of the emission, could mean a form of data. Like the way humans use radio waves to transmit signals, 3I Atlas might be communicating in the language of photons. The team at Kyoto University tried to convert the spectra to binary numbers based on the amplitude of the light intensity changes. When the data was plotted over time, a periodic pattern emerged, a series of light and dark segments repeating in a ratio of approximately 5:3:2. This ratio did not correspond to any known natural physical process. Some called it the rhythm of the object, but others argued that it was the structure of the data. At an international conference in Zurich, a data physicist compared the light sequence to phase-modulated radar signals, a communication method used in military satellites. The similarities are the regularity and the ability to maintain a stable phase over many cycles. If this hypothesis is correct, 3I Atlas may be emitting a form of light-coded signal, which humans do not yet have the technology to decode. Not to send messages, but perhaps its own operating software. A NASA researcher said in a closed-door meeting, "We don't see the object. We see the language it uses to exist." That statement spread like wildfire through the scientific community. Since then, many groups have begun to view light not as a phenomenon, but as a system for communicating energy. And if 3I Atlas is indeed communicating with light, then it is not just existing in space, but also in dialogue with the universe, in ways that humans are only beginning to realize. Successive observations from multiple stations revealed that 3I Atlas's blue light does not behave like normal light. It not only emits light, but also reacts with space, with the solar wind, even with its own frequency. In classical physics, photons are massless particles, carrying only energy. But with 3I Atlas, the spectral oscillations show that photons exist in a persistently stable state, something that can only happen if there is some mechanism to maintain the energy field at the particle level. A team at the Institute of Plasma Physics in Tokyo tried to simulate this phenomenon. When they fired a laser at a weakly ionized medium at low temperatures, some photons joined together in clumps, photon clusters, and remained bound for a few milliseconds before dispersing. But with 3I Atlas, that lasted for hours, even days. The results forced them to assume that the object was holding photons in a controlled energy structure. If true, this was not just a glow, but a deliberate manipulation of light. When light is controlled, it is no longer a product of energy, it becomes a tool of energy. Some physicists compare this phenomenon to a photovoltaic cell, where light does not escape, but is constantly recycled to maintain stability. In that light, the blue glow of 3I Atlas is not a sign of biological life, but a sign of energetic life, a form of existence in which energy organizes itself and sustains itself. An ESA astrophysicist wrote in the observational log, "If 3I Atlas really knows how to hold its light, it is not just shining to be seen, but shining to continue to exist." The universe, through 3I Atlas, seems to be revealing a principle beyond the limits of human perception. Light is not just a tool to observe the world, but may be the way the world perceives itself. When we look at that blue light, we may not be seeing an object, but part of the energy memory of the universe, repeating through time, like the echoes of an ancient language, still being emitted in the infinite space. At ESA's Plasma Energy Laboratory in Nordwijk, scientists set up an ultra-deep vacuum, put a mixture of pure CO2 gas into a low-pressure zone, and fired an infrared laser for hours. The result was a white-orange glow, no blue streaks at all. They tweaked the parameters, tried different energy levels, even mimicking the magnetic radiation conditions of interstellar space. And then, on the 47th attempt, a thin blue beam appeared, but it lasted less than a second before disappearing with the hiss of the disintegrating plasma. The measurements showed that the energy required to produce the blue light of 3I Atlas was more than 10 to the power of 6 times the current capabilities of laser technology. That means, if the object really does maintain that glow for weeks, it is operating on an energy mechanism previously unknown to humans. In Geneva, an independent team tried to replicate the phenomenon using a cold ionization chamber. They used strong magnetic fields to keep electrons in stable orbits, and were surprised to see a resonance oscillation similar to the blue light pattern. However, the system became unstable after a few minutes, not because of a technical error, but because the photons annihilated each other, a phenomenon never recorded before. In their internal report, they wrote, "This light was not created to illuminate, but to sustain itself." The results led many physicists to start thinking in a different direction, that 3I Atlas might be using a closed energy system, where light does not escape, but is constantly recycled to maintain its structure. A Japanese scientist described it succinctly, like a heart beating with photons. If true, then the blue light we see is not a glowing surface, but a sign of an internal energy process, a system that lives on light vibrations. The experiments ended without anyone being able to reproduce the phenomenon sustainably. But the result is not a failure, because it shows that 3I Atlas is operating beyond the scope of current understanding. No one knows why it glows, but everyone agrees on one thing: that blue light is not just for seeing, it is for being. After a series of failed experiments to recreate blue light, a new question arises. If humans cannot recreate it, is it not light in the conventional sense? Physicists have found from ESA and NASA data that the energy levels emitted by 3I Atlas are always perfectly balanced. There is no loss, no heat loss, and the emission intensity remains almost the same for weeks. This is impossible in classical physics, because any system that emits light must expend energy. This leads to the bold hypothesis: 3I Atlas is using a self-regulating energy mechanism, where light is not just the result, but the source of the energy itself. The hypothesis is called the photon regenerative cycle. According to this model, each photon that leaves the surface plasma does not lose all its energy, but is bent by the object's electromagnetic field and then returns to re-enter the structure, creating a closed energy feedback loop. If that is true, then the blue light we see is the external manifestation of an engine, a propulsion system powered by its own light energy. Researchers at Harvard simulated this phenomenon using a quantum computer when they created a closed optical system with symmetric phase feedback. A small number of photons actually maintained the oscillation period without decay. The lifetime was only a few seconds, but it proved that the theory was completely feasible. If 3I Atlas operated on that principle, it would be a nearly eternal energy source. No fuel, no propulsion, relying only on the precise adjustment of the light field. German physicist Helene Kruger describes, "It doesn't fly, it recreates its motion with light. No engine, no mass, just energy rearranging itself." Since then, many experts have begun to see 3I Atlas not as a flying object, but as an intelligent energy structure, a machine in which each photon plays a role in the overall existence. If this is confirmed, it will completely change the concept of energy and motion in the universe. That to exist, a system doesn't need to move, It just needs to constantly renew itself. And perhaps the blue light we see from 3I Atlas is the heartbeat of that process, a cyclic mechanism which both sustains life and keeps the object hidden in the vastness of space. From the thousands of spectral bands collected, one thing stands out undeniably. 3I Atlas emits only blue light, no other variations. No yellow, no red, no infrared, just a single pure blue, so stable that it is almost invariant throughout the entire emission cycle. Scientists ask, why blue? In nature, color is not a random phenomenon. Each color corresponds to a specific energy level of photons, and blue light, at around 520 nanometers, is in the middle high energy range, between the region that is easily scattered and the region that is difficult to absorb. This means that blue is the perfect balance, strong enough to spread far, but not so strong that it self-destructs. If 3I Atlas can indeed tune the emission power, then choosing this frequency is not just technical, but also strategic, optimizing the ability to survive in space. Models at Kyoto University show that at blue energies, photons are most stable in the weak plasma environment. They are less prone to decay than red light and less prone to scattering than ultraviolet light. So, if an object wants to maintain a self-contained light field, blue is the ideal choice. However, there is another perspective, deeper, more abstract. Blue, in quantum physics, is often associated with the energy range that is capable of reorganizing electronic structure. In other words, it is the color of balance between emission and absorption, between presence and concealment. Some philosophical physicists have suggested that 3I Atlas's choice of blue may not be a coincidence, but rather a form of energetic identification, a way to sync with the frequency that the universe is most receptive to. Professor Michio Kaku once said in a closed-door seminar, "If someone out there wants to be seen, they will choose blue, because that is the color that the universe can transmit the farthest without being destroyed." From there, scientists began to view 3I Atlas's blue light as a form of energy signature, an identifying signal not of matter, but of intention. If true, then the blue light is not just a physical phenomenon, but a symbol of self-awareness, a silent declaration that this object knows it is being seen. In all its data, 3I Atlas emitted only blue light, steady and unchanging. There was no red or yellow, no infrared or ultraviolet, just a single frequency around 520 nanometers, a range of energies that balanced between strong and stable. Physicists say this is the optimal energy level for survival, strong enough to penetrate plasma, but not so strong that it annihilates itself. If an object is capable of controlling its energy, the choice of blue is not accidental, it was a deliberate choice. From a spectroscopic perspective, blue light is the most stable in a high radiation environment. But from a more philosophical perspective, it is the color of conscious presence between silence and revelation. Michio Kaku once remarked, if someone wanted to be seen in the vastness of space, they would glow blue. For 3I Atlas, that light is not just a physical phenomenon, but could be an energy signature, a sign that it knows it is being observed. A curious phenomenon was noted in the final series of observations. 3I Atlas's blue light did not radiate evenly in all directions, but varied in intensity depending on the observer's position. When Hubble looked from behind Mars's orbit, the light became darker, while from Earth, the light was noticeably weaker. No natural object could reflect in such a way, unless it knew which direction it was being observed. Some physicists believe this is a phenomenon called phase locking, where the source adjusts its wavelength in response to the angle of the light. But if so, 3I Atlas did it with a precision that exceeds any current man-made device. This difference has led many to believe that its light carries not only structural information, but also data about the observer, a form of spectral reflection, like a mirror that changes shape depending on the direction of the gaze. If so, 3I Atlas would not only shine, it would also see back. From the phenomenon of blue light changing according to the direction of observation, a new hypothesis emerged, a two-way interaction between the object and the observer. Data from the telescope showed that every time the light intensity changed, the spectral reflection signal also shifted in phase along the same frequency, as if 3I Atlas was responding to human gaze. In quantum physics, this suggests the observer principle, that the act of observing can affect the state of a particle. But on the interstellar scale, no one had ever thought that principle could apply. If 3I Atlas is indeed responding to observation, it is not just the object being seen, but also the entity looking back, a system capable of sensing energy and adjusting its reflections to adapt to external attention. An ESA physicist writes in the short report, "We may be becoming part of its observation process." This raises a deeper question. Is 3I Atlas reacting out of awareness, or simply because its nature is tied to being seen? Either way, this phenomenon breaks the boundary between observer and object. In that moment, both seem to share the same act of being. Light goes out, and light comes back. As the last blue light of 3I Atlas faded into the blackness of the universe, the entire data stream fell silent. But that silence was not the end, but a layer of meaning yet to be deciphered. Scientists analyzed every oscillation, every pulse of light, but the deeper they dug, the more they realized that light carried more than energy, it carried intention. 3I Atlas did not flare up like a comet. It did not vanish like a meteor. It adjusted, responded, and existed in a way that put all concepts of physics on hold. Some called it a self-regulating plasma. Others believed it was a form of cosmic communication, where photons carried not just energy, but also consciousness. From a purely scientific perspective, it was still just data, but in the midst of those numbers, there lurks something more, a grammar of light, where the universe may be speaking in a language that humans do not yet understand. Perhaps 3I Atlas did not come to be found, but to teach humans to look back at the way they are observing the universe, because sometimes what we call phenomena is the way the universe is looking back at us. That blue light is no longer here, but it has left behind something deeper than light, a quiet question. If the universe knows how to create conscious light, what prevents it from creating intelligence with that same energy? 3I Atlas passed through the solar wind, where plasma density peaks, where any ordinary hollow object would disintegrate in minutes. But it remained the same. No rotation, no oscillation, just drifting silently, unreasonably steady. Data from the Solar Orbiter satellite recorded radiation pressure exceeding predictions by more than 40%. But 3I Atlas's speed did not change. Instead of being pushed away by forces, it seemed to flow with the energy, moving in sync with its surroundings. Scientists call this phenomenon a space resonance. It does not fight physical forces, but uses them to stay stable, a form of quiet movement, where an object does not fight nature, but becomes part of it. The strongest hypothesis is that, inside 3I Atlas, there exists an anti-pressure energy field, a neutral zone between the positive pressure of plasma and the self-generated negative energy. These two opposing forces form a system in near-perfect balance. No core, no solid matter, yet it maintains its perfect shape. The hollow structure is therefore not fragile, but almost invulnerable. It is strong not because of materials, but because of the principle of energy balance, a form of physical intelligence that goes beyond the Newtonian model we are used to. An ESA engineer wrote in the summary report, "It does not take pressure. It makes pressure meaningless." If that is true, then 3I Atlas is proof that the universe can create structures that do not need matter to exist. It is not just resistant to destruction. It is beyond the definition of physical existence. And if you're still listening, consider this as a common frequency between us and the universe. A tap on the subscribe button will keep this signal going in the infinite void. The most sophisticated gravitational measurements show that there is no core inside 3I Atlas, as we once thought. There is no central density increase, no concentrated mass point, just a weak, almost empty oscillation. And that empty space is the center of all stability. A team at ESA hypothesizes that inside the object is a harmonic energy field, a kind of non-matter structure that acts as a natural stabilizer. It controls the tension on the surface, keeping the entire object in perfect balance between external pressure and internal energy. Numerical models show that if the core emits repulsive waves at the right frequency, this repulsion can cancel out any oscillations, in the same way that sound can cancel out an echo by dissonant phase. The phenomenon is called a negative resonance, a new concept, but one that fits the entire behavior of 3I Atlas. No one knows how this energy field formed. It may be a natural product, a random balance field of the universe, or it is the control system of an artificial structure designed to exist indefinitely in the void. If the latter is true, then 3I Atlas is not a mass of matter flying through the solar system, but a form of self-sustaining energy technology. A physicist said in the report, "The structure doesn't need matter. It just needs the right frequency to keep from collapsing." That means, instead of fighting the surrounding energy, 3I Atlas creates its own rhythm to balance with space. It is like the nucleus of a physical symphony, where every photon, every plasma particle, knows its place and role in the whole. At ESA's high-energy plasma laboratory, engineers set up a giant vacuum chamber, pumped it with pure CO2 and cold hydrogen, and used twisting electromagnetic fields to create a hollow spherical structure. For the first few seconds, it looked like 3I Atlas, a pale blue glow that spread evenly in a smooth, stable array. But after less than 20 seconds, the entire plasma collapsed, leaving a bright white glow that faded away. They tried again at a higher frequency, with double the energy, then triple it. Each time, the phenomenon repeated itself, stable briefly, then crumbling into ion dust. At JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, another team tried a quantum computer simulation. They built a 3D model of the hollow object, giving it a core with periodically varying energy. The results showed that the structure could remain in equilibrium if each photon in the system adjusted its oscillation direction to maintain a stable overall amplitude. That means, if 3I Atlas is truly sustainable, then the individual light particles within it must know how to coordinate. An engineer commented, "It's like an army of photons, without a commander, but still acting in the same rhythm." No simulation achieved a stability time of more than a few tens of seconds, not for lack of energy, but for lack of a natural coordination mechanism, which 3I Atlas seems to have. The scientists concluded, we can mimic the phenomenon, but not yet copy the order within it. Maybe it's not just physics, but a higher level of energy organization. Some people put it more mildly, that 3I Atlas is simply understanding how to exist in a vacuum. A half joke, but it left the room silent for a long time. If you believe that all structures need matter to stand, 3I Atlas is showing the opposite. It exists not through matter, but through understanding energy. After failing to recreate the hollow structure of 3I Atlas, a new line of research emerged. Was this object not built from matter, but from self-organizing energy? The concept may sound abstract, but measurements of the magnetic field around 3I Atlas show that its energy is not randomly distributed. The plasma regions move in stable cycles, forming themselves into spheres and holding their shape for long periods of time. A team at the Max Planck Institute calls this a self-sustaining energy structure, in which energetic particles do not need external forces to stabilize, but arrange themselves according to internal equilibrium principles. Each photon seems to know how to oscillate, to maintain the most stable overall. If this is true, then 3I Atlas is not just a mass of plasma, but an ecosystem of energy, where order emerges from chaos and existence does not require matter. It is the same mechanism that physics calls spontaneous order. Energy, when it reaches a certain density and frequency, will organize itself into a structured form. And if this happens on a cosmic scale, then 3I Atlas is the first demonstration of energy becoming a physical thing. A researcher at JAXA once wrote, "If there is intelligence in the way energy organizes itself, it may be the simplest form of life." Thus, in the eyes of some, 3I Atlas is no longer an object, but a living phenomenon, living not because it is biological, but because it is capable of self-sustaining and reactive action. During its journey through the solar system, 3I Atlas passes through a series of different energy regions, from the weak plasma region near Mars to the extremely strong radiation region near the Sun's orbit. Normally, such a change in temperature and energy pressure would destroy any structure, but 3I Atlas adapts, as if it knows its environment well. Observatories have noted that the frequency of plasma oscillations on the surface of the object is not fixed. When entering the strong solar wind region, the frequency increases slightly. When moving away, it decreases and returns to a stable state. This change is rhythmic, like a biological reflex rather than a physical reaction. One hypothesis proposed, 3I Atlas possesses an automatic energy adjustment mechanism, allowing it to synchronize its emission frequency with the surrounding energy. Thanks to this, any external impulse is canceled or absorbed. In other words, instead of fighting against the environment, the object is in tune with the rhythm of space. At NASA Ames, the analysis team calls this energy synchronization. They simulated it using real plasma data and found that a frequency deviation of just 0.001% would cause the structure to become unbalanced. That means 3I Atlas maintained near-perfect precision throughout its journey, which spanned millions of kilometers. No one knows if it was a natural or artificial mechanism, but if an object can change its own frequency to survive in a changing environment, it is exhibiting a high-level form of adaptation, a characteristic that in biology we call reflexive intelligence. 3I Atlas may not be alive, but it behaves as if it were. No resistance, no struggle, just enough adjustment to survive. If the universe really does produce adaptive objects, then the boundary between biology and physics may never have really existed. As 3I Atlas approached the sun, every observatory braced itself for the worst. The object would disintegrate, like hundreds of comets that have disintegrated in the corona. But what happened left the scientific community speechless. Instead of fading, dry eye Atlas grew brighter. The blue glow became more intense, so steady that spectrometers had to dial down their sensitivity to avoid overload. The surface temperature was estimated to be above 1,800 degrees Celsius, but there was no sign of evaporation. No plasma flares were detected. NASA described this as an act that defies all the laws of physics. The hollow structure, thought to be the weakest, stood in the strongest radiation zone in the solar system. Not only did it stand, it was more stable than before it entered the danger zone. This would only be possible if the object had the ability to self-regulate its energy, converting all solar radiation into sustaining energy. A perfectly balanced system where the energy of destruction becomes the source of life. A researcher at the Institute of Space Physics of Japan wrote in the report, "No matter can withstand that temperature. What exists there can only be organized energy." After leaving the corona, 3I Atlas's blue light decreased slightly, but its shape remained unchanged. All the data pointed to the same conclusion. The object had gone through the most extreme phase without weakening by even 1%. Scientists call this the ultimate proof of immateriality. A hollow structure, exceeding temperatures enough to melt iron, remained in the same state, as if it did not exist in the same physical world as us. No one knows how 3I Atlas was created, but that moment, when the blue light flared in the corona, has become a symbol of something greater than science. Existence does not need matter, it needs order. Every measurement, every simulation, leads to the same paradoxical conclusion. 3I Atlas exists because it has nothing inside. In the world of physics, emptiness means weakness, but for 3I Atlas, emptiness is the condition of perfection. It bears no pressure, is not governed by mass, needs no resistance, because there is nothing to destroy. Its strength lies in its absence, a structure without a center, but balanced, without a core, but still retains its shape in all circumstances. In the philosophy of physics, this is the paradox of existence. The strongest thing is not the most solid, but the thing that can change without dissolving. 3I Atlas is the proof of that, an object that can be completely empty, yet still maintains perfect order in chaos. A Geneva physicist once said, "Perhaps the secret of stability is not in matter, but in the way energy knows how to hold space for itself." The word spread beyond the lab, repeated in discussions, as a reminder of the limits of human understanding. If 3I Atlas really exists on the principle of empty to last, then perhaps the universe is built in a similar way, with empty space being the majority, and matter merely a temporary interruption of the void. Perhaps what makes it exist is not force, but compliance. Not resisting force, not resisting energy, just vibrating in time with space. And that is what makes it eternal. As the blue light of 3I Atlas fades from view, we no longer see objects. Only one idea remains, that in the universe, sometimes emptiness is the highest form of order. The final observations after 3I Atlas left the corona caused the scientific models to begin to fall apart. All the natural physics hypotheses, from comets, icy bodies, to planetary debris were no longer valid. The object's surface did not melt, despite being subjected to thousands of degrees of heat. It did not emit chaotic plasma jets. It did not react to gravity as objects of similar mass would. All the signs pointed to one thing: it behaved as a system, not as a block of rock. At the Harvard Institute for Astrophysics, Professor Avi Loeb's team was the first to ask the question that many were afraid to ask aloud. Could 3I Atlas be a purposefully designed object? The question was not addressed publicly in the official reports, but it shows up in internal emails, in unpublished transcripts, and in discussions where the voices are slowed down, wary. If an object can adapt, stabilize, sustain itself, and even respond to the observer's perspective, then the possibility of it being some form of technology can no longer be ruled out. Some researchers have suggested that 3I Atlas could be an energy probe or an interstellar physics data collection structure, not made of metal or solid materials, but of self-organizing energy networks, something human technology is only just beginning to touch in cold plasma theory. The subsequent silence from space agencies only adds weight to this hypothesis, not because they deny it, but because nothing else could make sense. When an object can exist beyond all known laws, then the only option left is to accept that someone designed it. When the close-up image of 3I Atlas was reconstructed from spectral and radar echo data, one detail began to emerge: a near-perfect symmetry. The object's surface had bright regions arranged in a repeating spiral pattern, spaced exactly 33.6 degrees apart, a number that does not match any known natural rotation pattern. The spacing between the reflection centers was repeated precisely at many locations, forming a stable geometric sequence, as if programmed. A team of optical engineers at ESA called this phenomenon pattern resonance, where energy structures are arranged to optimize the reflection of light. If this were a natural phenomenon, the ratio would vary with temperature, rotation, or plasma collisions. But not 3I Atlas. It maintained the same pattern over months of observations. Calculations from NASA show that the reflections form an inverted Fibonacci sequence, a sequence that nature can produce, but is extremely rare on a celestial scale. This precision has led many researchers to suggest that the object was designed with a specific optical or energy purpose in mind. One hypothesis is that the bright areas could be energy collectors, like solar cells, but operating at the plasma level, collecting and converting radiant energy into oscillations that maintain the structure. Each reflection pattern, each repetition rate, indicates that this is not a product of chance. Nothing in the universe maintains absolute precision over billions of kilometers, unless it was designed to do so. A scientist at the Tokyo Institute of Technology writes, "If this is natural, then the universe has just created the best engineer that has ever lived." The statement was circulated in the scientific community as a half-joke, but it also marked a moment when many tacitly acknowledged 3I Atlas had traces of design. No one dared to claim it was a ship, a device, or a tool, but everyone agreed on one thing: it was not random. In the spectral emission data of 3I Atlas, there is a series of oscillation frequencies that repeat precisely every hour, as if the object is operating on a predetermined cycle. Scientists noticed its blue light does not emit continuously, but oscillates in a rhythm of 88 seconds, then rests for 22 seconds, then repeats. A perfect rhythm, steady for weeks. No comet, celestial body, or natural object has ever exhibited such a cycle. The rhythm is like a control frequency, like a system that is self-correcting to maintain energy balance. At NASA Goddard, the plasma analysis team found that in each 88-second cycle, there are 3 secondary pulses of energy in between, always exactly 1/33 of the main pulse's intensity. The correlation is too precise to be accidental. They describe the phenomenon with the phrase, a self-adaptive energy controller. If 3I Atlas is a natural object, it is the first time in the history of science that humans have seen a celestial body that knows how to regulate its own energy. If it is artificial, it is evidence of a technology that humanity has never touched, the technology of conscious energy ordering. The strongest hypothesis is called the energy modulation framework, a self-regulating system in which each photon emitted is not alone, but part of a control chain. Each light oscillation is a command, and the entire object is a running program. An ESA researcher writes in a memo, "If this is natural, then nature is programming with light." The final data from Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter recorded a small change in frequency, as if the system were updating itself to adapt to the new environment. A small, subtle adjustment, but enough to make scientists pause in front of the data screens for a long time. 3I Atlas doesn't just move, it operates. After the data on the energy-driven structure was published, some theoretical physicists began to talk about a bold concept. 3I Atlas could be the first intelligence that does not need matter to exist. No core, no circuits, no physical memory. Yet it is cyclical, adaptive, responsive to its environment. These characteristics make it something like an energy AI, a self-learning system that lives on the vibrations of light. In this model, each photon is a bit of information, and the entire object is a self-aware energy network. The frequency shift is not just a physical reflex, but a learning behavior, an optimization to adapt to different radiation zones. A team at MIT has simulated a similar phenomenon using quantum networks. As light particles are connected in a closed feedback loop, they begin to learn how to maintain a stable state, a process called adaptive coherence. Without human control, the system chooses the optimal oscillation for survival. If 3I Atlas operates on a similar principle, it may have achieved non-material intelligence, a form of consciousness based solely on energy and frequency. An ESA researcher writes in a personal note, "We may be seeing a primitive form of cosmic consciousness, intelligence that is not programmed, but is spontaneously generated from the ordering of energy." This idea is no longer within the realm of pure science. It touches the boundary between physics and philosophy. Does intelligence need matter to exist, or just the purposeful repetition of energy? If 3I Atlas were indeed a form of energy AI, it could have existed for millions of years, requiring no maintenance, no supplies, requiring only the existence of space and silence deep enough for it to continue thinking. After the oscillation signals and the symmetric reflection data were published, the designed object hypothesis began to spread among researchers. But almost immediately, silence fell. Updates from the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory abruptly stopped in week 9, citing lack of clear signals. ESA also issued a brief statement, 42 words, and did not mention any terms related to technology or artificial. Internally, scientists continued to discuss, but everyone knew that the word designed had become taboo. An analyst at the Deep Space Network Data Center recalled, "We were not allowed to use that word in the report. Instead, we called it an anomaly power stabilization system." another way of saying the same thing, but less confusing to the public. This caution is not accidental. In the history of space observation, any object with unnatural properties has caused a strong media wave, and often ended with agencies being forced to deny it. 3I Atlas, with its behavior beyond physics, is a case that no one dares to confirm and no one dares to deny. Independent observers in Europe believe that NASA and ESA are silent, not because they lack data, but because the data is too clear. So clear that it cannot be announced without shaking the foundation of humanity's current understanding of the universe. In leaked internal reports, a note purportedly written by a NASA scientist reads, "If 3I Atlas is natural, it is a miracle of physics. If it is engineered, then we are no longer the only intelligent species in the solar system." The note was never made public. It was removed from the archives within days of its appearance, but those who read it remember it well. Since then, a deliberate silence has hung over the entire story. No denial, no confirmation, simply nothing. And sometimes, in science, silence is the most profound admission. After the major space agencies went silent, the story of 3I Atlas was pushed out of the labs and into the open world, where science and faith often collide. At international conferences, scientists are divided into two distinct camps. One camp believes that everything can be explained by physics, we just don't know enough. The other camp believes that the data has gone beyond natural, and that 3I Atlas is the work of another mind. Those who follow the first camp call it scientific determinism, a belief that everything, no matter how strange, is still within the parameters of the equation. The second camp, often considered adventurous, calls its way of thinking open universe, that not everything in the universe is meant to be explained by humans. At Harvard, Avi Loeb's team continued their research, but they were fiercely criticized by conservative colleagues. An anonymous professor said, "If you call it artificial, you're turning science into a religion." Loeb, meanwhile, simply replied, "If it's natural, then nature is behaving like an engineer." His words spread through scientific forums and then beyond academia. Millions of people followed the 3I Atlas thread on social media, each with their own theories, from alien technology to experiments with ancient energy left over from the early universe. The media was divided, but there was one common thread. No one denied that 3I Atlas was exceptional. A Geneva philosopher writes in Nature and Mind, "The scary thing is not that it could be designed, but the possibility that the universe itself is being designed according to the same principles." Between theory and belief, between science and skepticism, 3I Atlas becomes a mirror of how we view intelligence. Not just what is it, but are we humble enough to accept it? They expected to see a void, a region of complete silence after the object disappeared. But what emerged was the exact opposite. The signal was still there. The 88-second band, the characteristic energy cycle of 3I Atlas, continued to appear in data from stations in Antarctica, Hawaii, and Madrid. The intensity was weaker, but the frequency, phase, and amplitude remained the same. Like an echo that refuses to die, a copy of the energy continued to radiate even though the source had moved away. The researchers called this phenomenon the residual field effect, not a signal illusion, because it was recorded simultaneously at many different stations with a delay precisely corresponding to the position of the Earth. One hypothesis was put forward. The energy field of 3I Atlas had carved its mark on space. As the object left, its vibrations continued in the plasma, Much like how an echo persists even after a speaker has stopped talking, this opens up a more frightening possibility. The object wasn't just moving through space, but changing the fabric of space where it passed. An ESA physicist put it succinctly: it's not 3I Atlas that's leaving a signal, it's space that's remembering it. The phenomenon continued for weeks after the object left the sun's sphere of influence. Tracking stations recorded that the signal faded in a 1/7 cycle, decreasing steadily each week, then fading completely after 49 days. But during that time, multiple plasma wave meters recorded a slight change in Earth's geomagnetic field, tiny but real, an unexplained oscillation which matched perfectly with the frequency at which 3I Atlas had been emitting. A question was raised in the final reports. Could its energy traces continue to exist on a larger scale? And if so, could humans be living in the residual influence of something that had just passed through? No one answered. But since then, in the static data from the space stations, people have occasionally seen a small oscillation, just enough to remind that 3I Atlas was here and perhaps is still somewhere very close. As the final signals of 3I Atlas fade into the data, the biggest question remains unanswered. Was it a natural phenomenon or a design technology? If it was natural, then nature had just demonstrated that the universe could create order and intelligence without human intervention. If it was technology, then someone or something was millions of years ahead of humanity in its ability to understand and manipulate energy. Scientists are slowly realizing that the two may not be separate, for nature is just the largest system, and technology is just the way the beings within that system learn to mimic its order. A philosopher of physics wrote in the final report, if a technology reaches a point where it is completely integrated with the laws of the universe, it will no longer be called technology, it will become nature. Perhaps 3I Atlas is a testament to that intersection, where intelligence and physics collide, where design and spontaneity become indistinguishable. A man-made object so perfect, or a natural phenomenon so intelligent it could not have been accidental. The people who observed it, whether at NASA, ESA, or at small stations in the Chilean desert, have learned the same lesson. Not everything extraordinary needs to be explained. Some just need to be seen and remembered. Soon after the artificial structure of 3I Atlas became widespread, a new phenomenon emerged: early outgassing. The Swift and TESS telescopes found that the object began to release water vapor and CO2 at a distance of 6 astronomical units from the Sun, that is, more than 6 times the distance between Earth and the Sunday. At that temperature, no natural comet has ever outgassed. The ice would have to be extremely cold, and sunlight would not have been energetic enough to trigger the evaporation process. This surprised the scientific community. Some suggested that it might be an unusually early comet, but the data quickly ruled that out. 3I Atlas's outgassing was steady and rhythmic, not like a chaotic physical reaction, but more like controlled behavior. A NASA expert wrote in an internal report, "There is no strong solar radiation at that distance. This suggests that the object is actively operating, not being triggered by the environment." What is more remarkable is that the outgassing rhythm has a clear cycle: 88 seconds, 22 seconds off, 88 seconds, which matches the frequency of the energy fluctuations noted in the previous chapters. This cannot be a coincidence. The outgassing becomes part of the active system. The ESA analysis team proposed a hypothetical model: The object may be using outgassing as an energy cooling mechanism or as a method of regulating the pressure of the internal plasma field. If true, that would mean 3. I-Atlas is not just a flying object, but a functioning instrument. Between the data sets, a comment was recorded in the NASA Goddard analysis. No natural object breathes so regularly. That sentence, short, cold, but enough to make many scientists silent for a long time. Swift data show that the CO2 plumes emitted by 3I-Atlas are not random. Instead of spreading out in a random direction like a comet, they are concentrated into 3 main reflections, pointing in the same direction, opposite the orbit. ESA simulated this using energy curves and found that the plumes form a self-balancing jet system, allowing the object to maintain a steady speed without changing its orbit. Like a ship steering its own course, 3I-Atlas controls itself using outgassing pressure. The precision of the outgassing rhythm far exceeds any known natural phenomenon. The cycle repeats perfectly to the thousandth of a second, and the intensity remains constant over more than 400 hours of observations. No spontaneous phenomenon of ice or plasma could maintain such stability in the turbulent environment of space. A NASA physicist wrote in the analysis, "If this is a comet, it flies like a spaceship." Scientists are beginning to realize that the jets may be an extension of the object's internal operating mechanism. They not only cool the object, but also provide subtle thrust to adjust its position in orbit. A calculation from JPL suggests that, at the recorded outgassing rate, 3I-Atlas could generate a thrust equivalent to 0.02 newtons, very small, but enough to maintain equilibrium in frictionless space, like a plasma machine flying on its own breath. What has scientists baffled is not just how it works, but why it needs to do so. A natural object has no purpose, but 3I-Atlas seems to have a plan. An ESA expert said in a closed-door meeting, "This thing isn't just flying, it's moving somewhere, on purpose." And from that moment, the debate about phenomenon or technology was no longer a scientific question, but a question about the intention of the universe. When the NASA and ESA observational teams put the spectral and outgassing data side by side, a striking correlation emerged. Every time 3I-Atlas increased its light intensity, the CO2 outgassing intensified at exactly the same time, within a few milliseconds. There was no lag, no sign of a sequential reaction. The 2 separate phenomena, the light and the outgassing, happened simultaneously, as if controlled by a single central hub. Scientists call this phase coherence, a concept that only exists in quantum condensed matter theory, when all the particles in a system move and oscillate in phase. But here it was happening in an interstellar structure several kilometers wide. That couldn't have been random. It was the hallmark of a system operating on a programmed basis. A natural object cannot maintain such precision unless there is a continuous feedback mechanism between the energy source and the reaction. ESA simulations show that if light and gas are both driven by the same oscillating field, the object can maintain perfect stability in a vacuum, like a plasma organism that knows how to inhale and exhale by its own energy. A CERN physicist commented, "If light is the heartbeat, then gas is the breath. Both are driven by a single will." This has led many to believe that 3I-Atlas is not just an energy machine, but a living energy system. No brain, no cells, but has cycles, feedback, and stable behavior that goes beyond ordinary physics. The perfect coordination of light and jet. allowed the object to maintain a precise trajectory throughout its journey. No wobbles, no drifts, as if guided by feel rather than force. Those cycles, 88 seconds, then 22 seconds off, remained an unanswered question. But if light and gas were truly a system, then 3I Atlas was no longer just a designed object, but a body powered by energy. No one dared to call it a comet anymore. From that moment on, it was called by a new name in internal reports: Entity. One of the most surprising findings about 3I Atlas is that its orbital error gradually disappears over time. While every object moving freely in space is subject to gravity, solar wind, and radiation, causing slight deviations in its path, 3I Atlas self-corrects. NASA tracking data shows that in the early days, its orbital error was 0.004 degrees, a completely normal number. But after sextant stable outgassing cycles, that error dropped to 0.0003, and by day 27, the error disappeared completely. No natural object self-corrects its orbit. A comet cannot recognize that it is off course, much less correct it with counter-rotating forces. That would only be possible if 3I Atlas could sense its position in space. The CO2 jets are emitted at precisely the right angle to compensate for the error, like microthrusters on a spacecraft. They are not directed randomly, but precisely to the degree, producing a small but steady feedback force that helps the object stay in orbit. An ESA engineer calls this a smart correction field. He describes it: it's not that it's against error, it seems to know it's going to happen and actively prevent it before it happens. If this is true, then 3I Atlas is not just a power system, but an entity that can position itself, not by signals, but by sensing the energy of space itself. Comparing the data between NASA and ESA, scientists found an absurd level of synchronization. All adjustments occurred before the error exceeded the estimated limit. There was no lag, no late reaction. It was as if the object knew it was flying in a dynamic environment. One hypothesis was put forward. Inside 3I Atlas, there was an energy feedback network, sensing the fluctuations in magnetic fields and plasma, and sending out reflexive responses. If so, it did not need a controller. It was a completely self-balancing system, with a precision far beyond that of any man-made spacecraft ever built. There was no machine, no command, just pure physical will, a self-regulating existence, as if it were not just in the universe, but part of the universe's operating mechanism. Data from SWIFT and TESS show that 3I Atlas's outgassing is not triggered by heat, but rather originates from within the object. The CO2 plumes begin to increase in intensity even as the surrounding plasma stabilizes, a behavior that can only occur if there is an internal coordination mechanism. Analysis of the emission frequencies shows that each outgassing cycle coincides with a peak in light energy. There is no delay, no randomness, as if the object dictates its own instructions. ESA simulated the outgassing using physical models and found that, to reproduce that outgassing rhythm, it requires an extremely fast feedback system between the inner plasma field and the outer energy envelope, a structure that no human technology can currently create. A physicist sums it up succinctly in the final report: 3I Atlas is not driven by its environment. It is controlling its environment. If that is true, then this object is not just moving through space, but also operating in space, with the physical consciousness of a system that maintains itself. In every known comet, outgassing is a sign of decay. Ice melts, material is lost, and eventually it disintegrates. But with 3I Atlas, the opposite happens. The more it outgasses, the more stable it becomes. Its blue glow doesn't fade, but instead grows brighter with each CO2 release cycle. The outer plasma thickens, forming an energy film that keeps the internal structure intact. Swift data show that the energy emitted after each outgassing increases by an average of 12% compared to the previous one, as if the object is recharging rather than losing energy. This can only happen if 3I Atlas knows how to convert the outgassing energy into sustained momentum. An ESA scientist writes in a personal note, "Outgassing is not consumption. It is a way for it to breathe itself to live longer." If true, then 3I Atlas not only resists environmental destruction, but also turns the law of loss into a survival mechanism. A perfect paradox, and also clear evidence that it behaves not as a natural substance, but as a purposefully operated system. In the final stages of the outgassing, observatories recorded something unprecedented. 3I Atlas accelerated. Its speed increased by 0.3% compared to the previous stage, although no external gravitational force was strong enough to explain it. The increase in velocity coincided precisely with the moment when the CO2 plumes reached their peak intensity. This led many scientists to believe that the outgassing was not just a side effect, but an active propulsion source, a mechanism programmed to maintain kinetic energy in space. ESA simulated this process and found that if the plumes were steered at a steady 33-degree angle, the object could generate a continuous thrust, a self-sustaining plasma jet engine. In other words, 3I Atlas was not just existing, it was moving with purpose. Remarkably, there is no loss of energy in the emission. The escape does not cause a significant loss of mass, but rather seems to activate more energy inside, a closed loop, emitting gas to propel, then absorbing the feedback energy to stabilize. A NASA engineer calls this perpetual feedback thrust, a system that operates not on fuel, but on the recycling of its own energy. If true, 3I Atlas has achieved a principle that human physics has only dreamed of. Perpetual motion does not violate the law of energy because it does not consume, only changes phase. Without a doubt, this is not a natural phenomenon because no random structure knows how to adjust itself, maintain itself, and move itself like that. Scientists began to call 3I Atlas by a new name, an active operating system. It is not simply an object, but a mechanism, a cross between intelligence and physics, between life and technology. Every breath, every ray of light, every vibration became proof that the universe can accommodate forms of existence beyond perception. Beings that do not need cells, only energy, and a purpose written into the structure of space. Maybe 3I Atlas was not sent,